Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations looking for the 1,000 best practices, the technologies, services, products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we add 2 billion new people to the planet by 2050, how are we going to be able to provide them with adequate and a safe source of water is one of those issues. Because without water, there's no life. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me who has been practicing in this field for a long time, doing a good work. And we met through the Berkeley Springs International Water Tasting. I wanted to put that in there, Chris. But this is Christopher, goes by Chris S. Hogan. He's a Communications Vice President for the International Bottled Water Association. And also he's going to be our special guest throughout the evening. So Chris, welcome to Emerald Planet TV.
Thanks very much for having me, Sam. It's great to be here.
Glad to have you here. Tell us a little bit about your organization, the International Bottled Water Association.
Well, IBWA is the primary trade association for the bottled water industry. We represent both bottlers as well as suppliers and also distributors, really all aspects of the industry. And what we try to do more than anything is advocate for bottled water, explain why bottled water is so important, and also educate people as to the regulations and requirements that are behind those reliable brands of bottled water that keep people hydrated, healthy, and on the move.
And we're going to talk about that too, because we're going to bring all of this together because we're really talking about domestic within the borders of the United States and then international, all those other countries and territories around the globe. So how does water help as far as all humans for a fit, healthy, and vibrant life? That's very important, as you know. But then looking abroad, many people say, why you have bottled water in developing countries, you know, on the African continent, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and places like that. So how do you balance those two, and what's the emphasis in each of those two very different environments?
Sure, and they are very different environments. The first thing is bottled water, as you point out, helps people live healthier lives. And that's really one of the most important things. Bottled water, when you look at that as a healthy choice versus other packaged drinks, which simply aren't as healthy, that's a choice that a lot of people are starting to make more now. And also, it's much more of an issue of awareness. People are thinking about making healthy choices. And when it comes to getting a drink when you're on the go, you have your family in the car and you're stopping to get something at the store, you want to reach for bottled water instead of a less healthy drink. And even the U.S. Dietary Guidelines, which came out here in the United States recently, specifically encourages people to drink water instead of sugar-sweetened beverages. And that's really a first.
And before we get into the international, really it's all about hydration. It's something that we need to do throughout the day. So it's critically important for good health, not only for the body, which most people think about, but also for brain function, correct?
That's very true. There are studies that have been done which really show when you stay hydrated, you are going to perform at a better level mentally, and it helps you in a number of different cognitive ways. And that's one of the many benefits of hydration. And staying hydrated with water, including bottled water, is really the healthiest and smartest way to do that.
In the United States, and we'll get into some of these older cities that are having challenges, but you know, this is really a choice that people have, and so they can make that choice. They can have other types of beverages. But when you're going internationally, what is the environment out there?
Well, it's going to vary. And IBWA specifically deals primarily within the United States and North America. We also have members that are international as well. One of the things we try to emphasize is that water infrastructure is very important. And for purified bottled water products, which you can get in the United States and other countries as well. Those are, in many cases, sourced from public water systems. So we have a vested interest in keeping public water systems safe, reliable, well-funded, because we're customers as well. When you are in other parts of the world that don't have those kind of systems, it is important to have bottled water available, because you need to have safe, reliable water in general. I know a lot of our member companies that operate internationally are also focused very much on helping to be a partner in those areas. Some help with infrastructure development, with well drilling, but it's going to be different no matter where you are in the world. The good thing is when bottled water is there, that is the healthy and reliable and in many cases safest choice you can get.
Well, I've been in 88 countries, about ready to go to my 89th country soon. And I know in many of these, which were 60 countries of LDCs, least developed nations or emerging market nations, and probably half of those, once you get out of the main cities, there really is very little to almost no infrastructure as far as, you know, clean, healthy, and safe water. And so if you don't have bottled water in those areas, in many cases you just don't have it. And so that's really an issue. And although there's a lot of technologies that we have that we've had on Emerald Planet TV, and we have them listed on our website, is being able to use some of those technologies when you're there, say on mission or education or humanitarian aid type trips. It's just really difficult to do that. But looking at the older cities within the United States, some of these systems have been there, some of them going back almost 400 years. It's amazing. People say they're still digging up wooden pipe in some of these very old East Coast cities. So, and looking at the lead aspect of that, tell us a little bit about why lead pipe, because, you know, that goes back beyond the days of the Romans, and it was killing people in those days. They didn't realize it. And yet here we are in the 21st century, and we still, in many places, have lead pipe.
Well, I think at the time that was really the technology that was in place. That was
what was there, yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think also what's being seen now is the awareness of how old a lot of these systems are and the infrastructure in a lot of older cities. And certainly Flint, Michigan is a great example of the kind of problem that this is going to cause and is causing right now. And what's going on in Flint is truly a tragedy. What our industry has been trying to do, before this even broke as a major news story, was get bottled water into the Flint community. There are other communities around the United States that are starting to talk about problems they're having with lead as well. Flint, however, is really a particularly unique situation in the worst of ways, unfortunately. The good thing from the bottled water side is that we have members that have been getting water through a variety of different charities and organizations. Convoy of Hope is one. The Flint relief agencies and the Michigan general relief agencies they've been working with, as well as the city of Flint. And we've delivered as an industry well over 2 million bottles of bottled water so far. And it's an ongoing situation. We're trying to get it in there as quickly as possible.
And that's a great tragedy, because when people are not able to take a shower, they can't use it to wash their dishes, all these other kinds of things, because literally that all goes to health. I mean, if you can't stay clean, in essence, you can't be healthy. And so it's not only the water you put in, which is how we normally think of that, but it's the water that, you know, that covers our bodies and our clothing and all those kinds of things. And so that's really necessary. And I know that you're not necessarily in that area, but the delivery system, of course, is something that you're concerned about, because as you're saying, in many cities, you're actually purifying and using that tap water from the city sources.
And it's also important to note that purified bottled water isn't just tap water in a bottle. And this is something we always try to help people understand, because that's an important question. The processes and the multi-barrier filtration process that goes into creating purified water out of, say, a municipal source really removes any likelihood that any of those contaminants are going to be there. There are very strict requirements, FDA federal standards, to meet the standard of purified water. So as much as we're very proud of the products we put out, it's also important to recognize the importance of a strong municipal system.
Well, I want to say too is now that I'm an official water taster, you know, through the Berkeley Springs International Water tasting, is that you don't really realize the purification, and then you have the purified water, then you have the spring. You know, there's 4 major categories.
Yep.
And until you really get into it, you don't realize there's a real difference in that as far as the taste and all those kinds of things. But going back to this whole notion of bottled versus tap, which is something that, in a sense, you kind of kicked that off, so it's an open question. What is the difference between those two? Why would, in cities where you do have good tap water, but people still want bottled water? And then what's the essence of that bottled water versus what you have in the tap as far as the minerals and the trace elements that you have in each of those, and then of course the cost?
Well, the main thing is we always try to remind people, drink water first. That's primarily what we try to get across when it comes to the differences between bottled water, tap water. We just want people to drink water. If you're making that choice, we certainly don't discourage people from drinking tap water. If you have good tap water, if you like tap water, drink it. It's perfectly fine. We don't have a problem with that as an industry. If you are going to choose a packaged drink, we want you to drink bottled water. It's the healthiest option. It's the smartest choice you're going to make in terms of a good diet, something that's going to hydrate you most effectively. And as far as the differences between bottled water and tap water, a lot of it comes down to regulation. Bottled water is regulated by the Food and Drug Administration very strictly as a packaged food, and tap water is regulated by the EPA.
So bottled water is a food?
Bottled water, according to FDA regulations.
Now I really learned something.
Well,
I didn't realize that.
And this is something people don't realize. It is a packaged food as far as the FDA is concerned. So it has to meet all those same requirements that any other packaged food can meet, as well as additional requirements that make it one of the most regulated foods under FDA regulations.
That's incredible. Tell us, and we've just about run out of time, tell us the story about lead. If you had less than what they recommend, then they would actually quarantine the water because it didn't have enough lead.
Well,
and be quick, because I got one last question.
You bet. Bottled water has a very strict lead standard, less than 5 parts per billion, which is much less than EPA's regulation of lead for tap water. So if that 5 parts per billion is reached, that water has to come off the shelves and people are notified immediately.
That's incredible. What do you see for the growth of your international organization, the Bottled Water Association, over the next 5, 10, 15 years?
I think we see a lot of growth. Bottled water in general is growing in popularity. It's going to be this #1 packaged drink probably by 2017, and so we have a lot of future ahead of us.
That's fantastic. Well, this is Christopher S. Hogan, goes by Chris. He is the Communications Vice President, does a very nice job, I can tell, International Bottled Water Association. And thank you for being with us as we talk about this critical product, water, as we create the Emerald Planet.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folk, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined, but there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to Emerald Planet TV, as we come to you on a week-to-week basis looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, and products, and of course the leaders that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we go to 2050, we'll have a planet of about 9 billion people. And so how are we going to be able to provide them everything that they need? At the same time, how to provide water, which is really the essence of life. Without water, there's no life. And we have someone who's actually is what's called a premium beverage and bottled water expert. She's going to tell us what that's all about, Debbie Custer. And then also right beside me as our special guest is Christopher S. Hogan. He goes by Chris, Communications Vice President of the International Bottled Water Association. And Debbie's coming in by Skype. Debbie, are you with us?
I am.
There you are. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about your professional activities with this nice, very long title, Premium Beverage and Bottled Water Expert. What is that?
Well, it's actually not a title. It's what other people determined that I do. I have been in the beverage industry for over 30 years, focusing predominantly on bottled water. But I also have helped set up craft breweries as well as wineries. So premium beverage it is.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. Tell us why the emphasis on water. We think of water, you go to your kitchen or the bathroom or the laundry, turn on the tap, water comes out in most cases, and usually we think of it's going to be safe and readily available to use. So why did you actually take water as your thrust and emphasis for your career?
Well, in many instances, the water is safe, but the water also is chlorinated, has a taste profile that most people don't appreciate or enjoy. And so as Chris mentioned earlier, you want people to drink water as a healthy alternative, and bottled water provides that. I came into the industry in 1985, working with a gentleman who wanted to produce a product that could be seen as a counterbalance to soda. The taste profile of the springs where the water was bottled had an extremely sweet taste coming out of the ground, carbonated it, and it was a very successful brand. So it really is an individual's taste, but if you ask the general population, they do not like the taste of the chlorine in their water.
So that's one of the universals, and so the workaround is try to find something that's going to change that taste or somewhat mask the taste. Is that one and the same, or is it different technologies?
It's one and the same. The purified bottled waters, they actually determine how they want that water to taste. They can add minerals to it through the various types of filtration. They want it to be unified throughout their manufacturing facilities so that the water that you get on the East Coast tastes the same as the water you get on the West Coast.
So as people move around the United States, because it's a highly mobile society, people want to take that, how they remember what it tasted in the last community where they lived or visited. I guess, is that
Correct.
what you're saying, Debbie?
Aquafina, Dasani, Nestle Pure Life, they all taste the same no matter where you drink them.
So it's like the old Holiday Inn ad, the best surprise
Exactly.
is no surprise.
There'll be no surprise if you drink a Nestle Pure Life in Washington, D.C. or Los Angeles.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Well, you're working with a number of water companies around the globe, And tell us a little bit about maybe some of the names, if you can, but also the opportunities for working with international companies that have bottling relationships. And then why, and this is the question that you'll have all the environmentalists, why do you want to bring water from one side of the globe into the United States? And of course, the United States exports quite a bit of water internationally. So why do that exchange of water? Why not just use what you have in your own home community?
Let me start with the last question first.
Okay.
The reason you would want to bring water into or export it is, again, the taste profile. As you mentioned, you've been at Berkeley Springs water tasting. There are thousands of taste profiles with water. No two, unless you manufacture them that way, will taste the same.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw this in the middle of your answer. That was incredible. I had 78 different waters. I was the last judge.
Okay.
And I could not believe you'd have 15, say, in the purified water, and they were a little different, each one.
Mm-hmm. They all are. Purified water is a lot like like a recipe. Depending on how you purify it is how it's going to taste. That's more so of what comes out versus what goes in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In Europe, mineral waters are what people enjoy. That's the taste profile of the European waters. They have a little bit of sodium and a little more, it's called metallic-y taste. That's why a lot of them are carbonated, that helps defer some of that metallic taste. In the U.S., we like the clean, smooth taste of a spring water, not a very heavily mineralized water. So it just depends. You export it for that reason. As Americans become more global, and you take that water to them. And it's a food product. We import olive oil, spaghetti sauce, German sausages. We export corn. It's the same concept. It's a food product.
Yeah, and the whole thing is that many people don't realize it, but at one time, the #1 import into Russia was vodka, and it came out of Virginia on the East Coast, and people saying,
yeah.
Vodka and Virginia, that didn't compute, but it was a $100 million business at one time, so it's big business. So we're exporting prosciutto back to Italy and Honda cars into Japan, so it's an international trade. But going back to this, you were talking earlier, about these different waters and the lead aspects of that. How does that relate to what Debbie was just saying there, Chris?
Well, I think one of the important things that you brought up is...
the food aspect of this, what I want to emphasize.
Yeah, that in terms of the regulation.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as a food product. I never thought about it as a food product.
Yeah, well, it has to do a lot with those regulations that are in place. It's very strict controls as to what is going to be in that food product, how it's regulated, who regulates it. And I'm kind of curious, Debbie, can you tell us what are the standards of quality for an international bottled water, and how do you determine those?
It's many times if it's served and sold only in that country, it's that country of origin that determines what the bottled water designation, whether it's called table water, spring water, mineral water, that country determines that. If it's coming into the U.S., the FDA determines that. And the plants have to be...
And FDA is what?
Food and Drug Administration.
Okay, we have to be clear on these acronyms. Okay.
Food and Drug Administration has agents that go into these manufacturing facilities in other countries and gives accreditation to those facilities that product can be imported into the United States. Labeling claims, all of it has to be, it has to abide by strict Federal Food and Drug Administration regulations.
Yeah, we just want to make sure because this, half our audience are international and English is not necessarily their first language. So we just want to make sure that they understand what it is we're talking about. One thing that you were mentioning to me when we were talking earlier, Debbie, was the fact you're working with some of the Native American nations and helping them as far as bottling water and then bringing it out to the greater community throughout the United States and maybe even some export. Tell us a little bit about working with Native American nations and the importance of that.
Right now, I'm currently working with the Holton Band of Maliseet Indians in Maine. They have 2 springs on the reservation. The bottling facility had been in operation about 10 or 15 years ago for bulk water, which is 3 to 5 gallon water. And now they want to go into single serve, 12 ounces and above, up to 1.5. And so we're in the process now of realigning their bottling facility, ensuring that they know what they want to do, whether it's still water or sparkling water, the various sizes, packaging. Packaging is big because you want your carbon footprint to be as small as it can be. But if you use a bottle that contains a lot of recycled materials, your breakdown of the product is quicker than glass, for instance. You can put bottled water in glass and it will last past the Best Buy sell date. But in plastic, it's a living organism and it starts breaking down through the plastic.
That's good to know, and thank you for bringing that out. Was not one of my questions, but it's really very important information, Debbie, that you're sharing. Looking at the Berkeley Springs International Water Tasting, I know you've been involved for many years with this event. Tell us, what is the event, and then why is it important to have something that my understanding is this is as large or larger than the international wine tastings that go on around the globe. So why is it important to have such an event, and particularly at Berkeley Springs?
This event started 26 years ago. This is the 26th year, and since it has been in its orientation, there have been many other water events that have come along, but this one continues to grow. It's important because it brings a lot of waters into the forefront of the industry in one location. You get industry experts on other things, on municipal waters, on the issues that are taking place annually. I have not been there every year, but every year that I have been there, there has been one location in the United States that has come under siege for their municipal water. A couple years ago, it was Charleston, West Virginia. This year, it's Flint, Michigan. And many people don't know there are over 3,000 incidences a year with regard to municipal water. Most of them are, 1 or 2 day boil only warning, but they're out there. And these types of events like Berkeley Springs brings it to the forefront and gives you an opportunity to find out what you can do and how to move forward.
Fantastic. This is Debbie Custer. She is a premium beverage and bottled water expert. And sitting right beside me is Chris Hogan of the International Bottled Water Association as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the inside.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States. And I think we have a different guest up on the screen than what we should be having right now. Gentlemen? Okay. There we go. All right, we're to bring on Alana C. Hartman. She's the Potomac Basin Coordinator, Watershed Improvement Branch of the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. She's coming in by telephone, and so I think we had a little technical glitch there. And then sitting right beside me is Christopher S. Hogan. He goes by Chris, Communications Vice President of the International Bottled Water Association. Alana, are you here?
Yes, good evening.
There you are. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being here. And we're talking about water and the importance of water. Also, Chris was educating me through the program that water is a food product, and I didn't realize it was regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. But your organization, the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, is key and central to some of that regulation. Tell us a little bit about your organization, and then what is a Potomac Basin Coordinator?
Okay, well, the West Virginia DEP regulates all kinds of inputs into our surface waters and groundwater. We don't regulate drinking water per se, but the quality of the water that's out there. So indirectly, I think we're relevant to the drinking water industry. And we were kind of in the spotlight quite a bit a couple years ago when our capital, Charleston, had a crisis of drinking water in the Elk River. So that led DEP to do more regulation of above ground storage tanks, and the Department of Health and Human Resources is causing water sources to write protection plans by June of this year.
Now,
so that's
looking at the whole notion, and then we'll go to your title, but looking at the regulation, I understand there's maybe some 3,000 incidents as far as municipal water and providing it to the public. One is, why are there so many incidents? And then how does that impact not only West Virginia, but all the other state departments of environmental protection?
Well, I am not as familiar with those statistics, but I know that in my own town here in Romney, we have a little bit of trouble with algae in the summertime, and that does get related to my job then, because I'm trying to help people eliminate nutrients, so many nutrients from the water, so that we don't have algae blooms. And that should help the water suppliers to be able to, filter the water and not have to use as much chlorine and disinfectants and things, and not to have such cloudy water that they have to treat with flocculants and everything. So that should help them to have cleaner drinking water if our rivers stay algae-free.
So when you're talking about the number of incidents, then what it is, it's really the regulators, in a sense, come in to help and assist to make sure that the local communities really do have the very best drinking water possible.
Yes, like we just got our annual report in the local newspaper saying what the levels were of all the potential pollutants and chemicals and luckily here in Romney, ours said that we did not have any problems this year.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Well, tell us, I know that you're on actually as far as making sure that you improve the sources of the water, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to have you on, because that's critical. As if you don't have a good source, it's tough to have, you know, a good, as I now understand, food product as far as water is concerned. So what is a watershed group, and why is this designation so important?
Well, watershed groups are volunteers in the communities that get together to work on an issue that's important to them, like some kind of pollution source or, you know, just something that they want to do for clean water. And our agency, Department of Environmental Protection, has basin coordinators like me who help them to get the funding and assistance, technical assistance they need to carry out projects. And we like working with them because they can talk to their neighbors and, you know, they know what the local issues are, and they're a lot more effective than just having a large, you know, bureaucratic government trying to do the same thing.
Well, the whole thing about it, too, is that you're involving hundreds, maybe thousands of concerned citizens that are very much concerned about their own local communities. So that really beefs up the type of inspection and quality control that you're trying to bring to the public anyway, correct?
That's correct. We have one in Morgan County that was able to sample a stream before and after an unfortunate gasoline spill because, you know, something happened, a malfunction with the truck that was depositing gas in a tank at a gas station. So that allowed them to have, you know, an immediate response and go to the local stream and monitor what had happened to it as a result. So that's just an example of, you know, boots on the ground and the passion that exists there in that community.
It means your job is even more important. Chris, why don't you ask the next question?
Sure. Well, I'm curious, what is a natural stream restoration, and why is this process so important to the quality of drinking water?
Natural stream restoration is a pretty popular type of project now where you can shape the stream banks and the channel of a stream so that the erosion isn't as pronounced and it's not as, you know, it doesn't happen as often. So that way the stream banks can grow vegetation back to the way that, you know, the natural conditions should be, and then the stream will be stable going forward. And what happens with that is the vegetation is able to filter out pollutants and keep that that cloudiness down that I was talking about earlier because there's less erosion.
Now, looking at the urbanization and suburbanization, I'm not even sure that's actually a word, but, you know, more densely packed communities are happening all over the United States. We now have, almost 320 million people in the United States. 80% of them are living in dense urban areas, but it's very important that we actually protect the sources and the quality of water. And I know that something this is you focus on as far as the countryside and watershed areas. How can people be involved in that, even though they may live in the cities or, planned suburban communities, that they can actually help to protect not only the water in that area, but also the soil, the air, and the general environment around them?
Well, in a simple answer, trees. Trees can do all of those things. They hold the soil in place and, you know, filter pollutants from the air. But in the water field, they're especially important because they can block raindrops from hitting the ground with erosive force, and they can, you know, reduce the amount of runoff that happens in a city that's mostly streets and rooftops and sidewalks. And they have all kinds of other, you know, extra benefits as well. They can help reduce the cooling cost of a building that they're next to, and they provide habitat for wildlife. So that's one practice that we really promote in suburban areas that can really do a lot of different things.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Now, I know that in being in West Virginia, you do have large cities, so you have urban areas, and then you have, of course, many rural areas. How can people in rural areas become and be involved and provide the kind of guidance or, as you were talking about, boots on the ground that would be helpful to improve the quality of the water, the quality of the environment? And it's not really an incident. It's the fact is that they're being proactive to make sure that the environment stays in good shape, for the future?
Well, again, they can just become part of a watershed group, or if they don't live in close enough proximity to like-minded people, they can become part of a statewide organization or a regional organization that's doing similar work. And we do have a lot of rural watershed associations, and one thing they love to do is monitor streams. They can go out and sample the life that lives in the streams and also the chemical properties of the stream. So that's all very useful.
Oh, that's great. Chris?
Yeah, well, I'm curious, can you explain the Chesapeake Bay Basin watershed and how the Chesapeake Bay cleanup benefits local streams and communities and vice versa?
Sure. There are 6 states and the District of Columbia that have land area that drain toward the Chesapeake Bay. So all the rivers like Susquehanna and Potomac are all part of the watershed, or the area that drains toward the bay. So people in all those states and D.C. are receiving a lot of federal funding and matching that funding to clean up local streams so that when they reach the bay, they have fewer nutrients and sediment. So that is helping us locally, and anything that we're doing here locally for those goals is going to help the bay as well.
Yeah, looking at agricultural runoff and agricultural waste, this is something that we were focused really on the urban areas, suburban areas, but agriculture has a real impact as far as water quality and also the quantity of water that's going into like the Potomac River and then into the Chesapeake Bay and even into the Atlantic Ocean. So this is a, no pun intended, a ripple effect across all these different water sources. But what do you do as far as agriculture?
Well, I was just at a meeting recently of the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which is a part of the USDA, and they had a bunch of farmers and other agency staff meeting together to talk about their goals for the next 5 years and what kind of practices farmers should be doing or could be doing to help water quality and soil and everything. And they seem to focus a lot on tree buffers, which I mentioned earlier. If you have a lot of trees along the stream, that really helps water quality. But also cover crops seem to be really popular, and conservation tillage is how a lot of farmers are doing their tilling nowadays instead of deep plowing. So there are practices that seem to be catching on, that seem to be kind of a win-win and helping out the farmer's bottom line as well, which, I think as long as we keep offering cost share and getting the word out farmer to farmer, I think that we are seeing improvements.
Yeah,
and also the acreage is going down too, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's fantastic because many people are always concerned about the farmers, and actually they're the first line of defense in many cases as far as water quality. We're almost out of time. What do you see for the growth and development of your watershed improvement branch of the West Virginia Environmental Quality Organization?
This issue of drinking water is actually quite a shot in the arm for us. Now that people are caring more about their drinking water, they seem to be lending their aid to the watershed group. So I think it'll be mutually beneficial. Fantastic.
This is Alana C. Hartman, Potomac Basin Coordinator of the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. Chris Hogan of the International Bottled Water Association as we create the Emerald Planet.
There's more than just books at the library.
There's more than just books at the library.
Excuse me.
There's more than just books at the library.
Il n'y a plus que de livres à la bibliothèque.
Hello. You have a lot of great books here today. You know there's more than just books at the library.
I know.
There's more than just books at the library.
I don't want to be hooked to a machine.
I want all the medical treatment available to me.
I wouldn't want my family to have to make this decision.
My doctor knows what's best for me,
An advance directive is your life on your terms. Talk with your family. Decide what's right for you. Then put it in writing.
Documenting my wishes today means my family won't have to make heart-wrenching decisions later.
To learn more, visit www.putitinwriting.org.
1,200 American youth run away from their homes every day. The National Runaway Switchboard is here to help. 1-800-RUNAWAY. If you are a runaway, thinking about running away from home, or a parent or guardian concerned about issues facing your child, call us 24 hours a day. 1-800-RUNAWAY. In times of crisis, hope is just a phone call away. 1-800.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet and of the Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis, looking around the globe for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, products, and of course the leaders that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And we have the essence of all topics, water, and how we're going to be able to bring the best quality water to a planet that's going to have some 9 billion people by 2050, and possibly by the end of the 21st century, it may be 12 to 13 billion people. And so we have someone that's actually working at a very local level, but doing critical research, analysis, and study, and also improvement. This is Gayle Katherine Lehman. She goes by Kate, the president of the Warm Springs Watershed Association. And sitting right beside me, our special guest is Christopher, goes by Chris. S. Hogan, he's the communications vice president with the International Bottled Water Association. And Kate's coming in by telephone. Kate, are you with us?
I am.
Hey, welcome. Glad to have you here. You really live in a beautiful area. I was looking at all these photos that you shared with us. That's an incredible place where you live. But tell us a little bit about the Warm Springs Watershed Association and why it's so important at the local level to bring about quality water, but also to help protect the environment in general.
The Warm Springs Run is 11.8 miles long. It's a very small stream. It isn't used for drinking water. It's not used for navigation. It's not really used for anything, but it is a direct drain into the Potomac River, which is a source of drinking water for millions of people downstream. And when the Water Association first was organized in 2008, our concern was to determine the health of the stream primarily by looking at the critters that live under the rocks. Mm-hmm. And the stream has long been an impaired stream. In the 19th century, tannery waste was dumped directly into it. Up until the 1960s, raw sewage was dumped directly in it.
Goodness.
And so we were looking at what has happened to the critters. And the situation was never very good, but we began to notice that things were getting worse. There were fewer critters, and the critters that were there are ones that can live in impaired water. And so we began to look at what in the watershed, the area that drains into Warm Springs Run, might be causing greater impairment to the water. And one of the main things that we discovered was increased stormwater runoff, which is caused by an increase in impervious surfaces. And we've learned that not only is controlling stormwater runoff important to the health of the critters, it's also really important to ensuring a good supply of drinking water. About 40% of the source of water for streams is groundwater, and if water goes into the ground rather than rushing into the streams, there's more of it that stays in the streams, and also there's more well water. So controlling stormwater runoff helps Warm Springs Run. It also helps to protect a good supply of drinking water.
I was telling you earlier that there's literally thousands of citizens around the planet that would really love to know about your organization, the work that you're doing, because you're getting volunteers. You're not really depending on the government directly to do the testing, the verification, and also the protection of this local water quality. So why are you and so many others willing to give up so much time, you know, the 3 T's, time, treasure, and talent to do this testing and work with the governments, such as the West Virginia Environmental Quality Department, and to make sure that there's clean water coming through the mountains that are going into the streams and eventually out into the Atlantic Ocean?
Most of us love the out of doors. Many of our members like to fish, and so they care about clean water. I would say that most of us feel that we're part of an interconnected web of all existence, and that by acting in small ways for the good, we help to make the whole web stronger. And we're fortunate. It seems like Berkeley Springs attracts retired people who have the time and the energy and the expertise to do some volunteer work. And we're trying to inspire more and more younger people to become involved. And that's the more difficult task, is inspiring younger people who are so very busy in their lives.
Well, the thing about being able to attract people that have gone through professional careers, say they are retiring from major urban, suburban areas, they move in, you find they have a real passion as far as protecting this place that they've moved into, because that's why they were able to, you know, uproot and settle in a new place. So that's really critical. And also you have people that are, in most cases, well educated. They have good management skills, communication skills. So tell us a little bit about the background of the people that are coming into your community, and how does that really contribute to the overall quality of what you're actually sharing with the governments and other bodies that you interact with?
A lot of the people who are moving into the area are retired federal government employees. And so they're very well able to understand the red tape that needs to be managed in order to apply for grants and to then account for how grant money is spent. For example, we have somebody who was retired from the Army Corps of Engineers who has a very good understanding of stormwater and infrastructure, green and gray. I'd say that federal government employees is one of the main sources of people who really know how to secure grants, how to administer them, and how to make the most of them.
Mm-hmm. That's very good. Chris?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, can you tell viewers what the condition is of Warm Springs Run, and what can that tell experts about the health of other bodies of water?
The condition of Warm Springs Run, as I mentioned, continues to deteriorate. There are increasing amounts of sediment in the water, and the sediment is washed into the stream by large quantities of fast-moving stormwater runoff. The percentage of impervious cover in the watershed has increased from 12 to 19% in just 4 years.
My goodness.
And that's typical of large urban areas like the D.C., Northern Virginia, Maryland, Baltimore. A large percentage of impervious surfaces is going to have a huge impact on groundwater and on water quality in streams. We also have a problem with high levels of fecal coliform in the water, and much to our distress, we have not been able to pinpoint the cause of it. We know it's not the sewage treatment plant because it's downstream from where we've detected or the source, so that we can find grant monies to fix it so that our waters are protected the water flows right through Berkeley Springs State Park, and one often sees children playing in the run, and that's a real source of concern to us. But fecal coliform in the water is a concern wherever there are septic systems, or if there, again, going back to stormwater runoff, if there's flooding of a sewage treatment plant, much of the effluent goes directly into the water.
Yeah, this is something that even in the smaller communities, people don't realize the impact as far as climate change, because we have more and more of these what they call severe weather events. And
Absolutely.
So the water is coming, it's faster, it's harsher, it's causing more damage. You were talking about the stream, the banks, and all that. What about planting trees and trying to expand the tree cover, the canopy as they call it, in your area, and how that may impact as far as the water quality and slowing down some of the sediment that's actually going into the stream itself?
One of the principal leaders at Capen Institute, which is a local environmental agency in the area, said that if Warm Springs Watershed Association did only one thing to help protect the stream and the environment, it would be plant trees. And we have partnered with several organizations, including the Town of Bath Tree Board, to plant, we've probably planted, 1,000 trees in the last 5 years. The Sleepy Creek Watershed Association has planted even more than that. A lot of people are aware that trees, the leaves, the branches, the bark of tree captures the first 3/4 of an inch of rain in a normal rainfall. And much of that water then evaporates back into the air. What does make it to the ground gets there slowly and can often be absorbed into the ground. The roots of trees help to soak up excess water. And so in terms of green stormwater management, trees they do a great job. What a lot of people don't realize is that plants and trees are an important part of the water cycle. And they help not only to manage excess amounts of rain, they also help to make sure that the cycle continues and there's going to be sufficient amounts of rain. If all of the trees in the world were cut down, we'd be in desert conditions within a very short period of time, because trees both create rain and then they deal with rain, protect the earth from too much rain when it does fall.
Yeah, that process called transpiration, and that's something
Yes.
that's very important, that you recycling all of this water at the local level and not just have the runoff into the streams and then the rivers, the bays, and then out into the ocean, because that's really doing very little for the earth. We have just absolutely run out of time. You've done a fantastic job, Kate. What do you see in about 10 seconds for the growth and development of the Warm Springs Watershed Association? And be quick, please.
We want to do more green stormwater management.
That's absolutely perfect. Thank you for that. Chris, thank you for being with us. Kate, thank you for joining us. You provided much good information, and thank you for being with us as we look around the globe at the technology, services, and products, and of course the people as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Glad to have you.
Goodbye.